He woke up to a voice he didn't recognize, but it was inside his head. His eyes slowly opened to a featureless white ceiling, as if the sky itself had frozen above him, reduced to this pale color. There was no sunlight or window shade, only the dim light of a lamp swaying above him in deadly silence. He tried to get up, but his body didn't respond at all. It was as if he'd woken up inside a borrowed body, half familiar, half alien. His hands, his skin, even his breathing seemed to follow the rhythm of someone else. He searched for something simple. His name, his voice, just one memory to pull him back to himself, but found nothing. A middle-aged woman entered carrying a file, wearing a long white coat with no name tag. Her smile was carefully calculated, as if she'd practiced it for decades and had finally found a new face to practice it on. She said, "Welcome back, Adam." He stared at her. He didn't respond. She continued with artificial calm. "I know it's confusing, but you're in a safe place. You're now at St. Beatrice's Neurological and Psychiatric Rehabilitation Center. You were involved in a complex accident, and as a result, you lost your memory. We're here to help you recover it, step by step." He thought about the word, Adam. Is that really his name? Or just a temporary one they're using until he remembers? Something deep inside him rebelled against the idea. "Why don't I remember anything?" he asked hoarsely, as if his vocal cords themselves were still learning how to speak. She replied calmly, "Your brain refuses to connect to the past. There are black blocks in memory, perhaps traumas that were buried deep for some reason. We don't touch what the mind doesn't want to see, but we help you remove the blocks, one by one." But something about her tone was disturbing. It was as if she were talking to a patient in a medical drama, not a real person. The bed, the walls, the exaggerated silence, the lack of anyone else or evidence of external time. Everything around him seemed part of a design, not an institution. As she explained the details of the treatment program to him, something began to creep in. Not a memory, but a feeling. A feeling that he wasn't just in the wrong place, but that he had been stolen from his original place. Not like a person is stolen from their family or their past, but like a file is stolen from a digital memory and reloaded into another device. The doctor said, "The first session will be tomorrow morning. We'll use a tool called a neuroimmersion device. It's completely safe. It will restore you to your earliest memories." She smiled, then left. She left him alone with that voice inside him. The only voice he was sure was his own. "This isn't you. This isn't you. This isn't you. But who is he then?" He couldn't sleep. Even though the walls were soundproof and the lights automatically turned off after 9 p.m., his mind remained alert, as if every cell in him refused to rest. It wasn't just tension. It was a deep existential refusal, a silent resistance to what he was told was his truth. In the morning, the doctor arrived as promised. Her name was Dr. Sama, which she had engraved in small print on a silver badge, but it hadn't been there the day before. Had they just added it today? Or had he simply not noticed it? She entered with 2 technicians. She smiled. "Ready for your first session, Adam?" He didn't answer, but he stood. They led him into a dimly lit room, its walls covered in a gray, leather-like insulation. In the center was a circular machine resembling a backless chair. In front of it was a long metal arm that ended in a transparent device covered in optical wires. The doctor said, helping him sit up, "This is the neuroimmersion device. It will take you to the first layers of memory. The experience won't be painful, but it can be disorienting. You'll see scenes that might not make sense. Don't try to understand them, just observe. She placed the device over his head and closed a glass mask over his eyes. A faint blue beam began to flow across his retinas, and in an instant the world faded away. He was in a forest. The air was humid, leaves moved quietly, and the darkness was filled with nighttime sounds, a cricket, a distant bird, the soft thump of feet on the dirt. Adam wasn't a young man here. He was a child. 6 years old, maybe younger. He walked barefoot, trembling, holding a torn rag doll in his hand. His shirt was dirty, his legs bare. Behind him, somewhere, a woman's screams could be heard. "Jamal! Come back now, Jamal!" He knew this child was Jamal. He also knew it wasn't him. He tried to shout, "I'm not Jamal," but his mouth wouldn't move. He was stuck inside this tiny body, just a spectator. The child advanced through the trees until he reached a dilapidated wooden hut. He opened the ajar door and entered, his breathing quickening. Inside, a man was asleep on the ground. His face was hidden in shadow, but the child, Jamal, approached him with cautious steps. "Dad?" he whispered, but the man didn't answer. On the ground lay a broken bottle and a wet piece of paper with something illegible written on it. Suddenly, flashback, the child screams. The man opens his eyes and attacks him. Then, darkness. Adam woke up inside the room, panting. His body was trembling, and his heart pounded in his chest as if it might break it. He violently removed the mask and looked at Dr. Sama with angry eyes. "Who is this child? This isn't me. Why did he show me his life?" She answered with maddening calm. "It's one of your layers. Perhaps from your early childhood. Your mind is gradually reorganizing your identity." But he wasn't convinced. He felt there was a lie in every detail, as if they were trying to implant a memory he hadn't asked for. He said, "I don't know a woman screaming my name or a drunk man on the floor. Nor is my name Jamal." She replied, almost mechanically, "Maybe not now. But you'll remember in time." She left the room. He returned to his room, watching his hands. Was he a child named Jamal? Was this a scene from his buried past? Or was there another, more terrifying possibility, that it wasn't his memory at all? At night, he sat by the wall, pulling his knees to his chest, and repeated the sentence that had visited him at the beginning. "This isn't you." But what if there wasn't a you at all? What if his entire identity was a composite? Adam no longer trusted sleep. After a beauty session, the night had become a trap he feared falling into. Every moment he closed his eyes, he feared waking up in a new body, in a new life, one he didn't know and in which no one knew him. But he knew better now. What he had seen wasn't a dream, wasn't a hallucination, but a doorway. The next day, Dr. Sama didn't wait for his approval. She entered at 9 a.m. sharp, accompanied by the same 2 technicians. "Today, we're going to dive deeper. Ready?" "No." She smiled. "Good, the mind always resists before it surrenders." They didn't give him time to think. The helmet was fitted over his head and the waves were switched on. Darkness, then light. He was now in a small workroom, its walls covered with charts, and account records were displayed on a screen in front of him. Fingers moved rapidly on a keyboard, and eyes monitored the numbers with deadly discipline. He's in the body of a man in his 30s, wearing a white shirt and a blue tie. His name was known from an inner voice, different from his usual. "My name is Hassan. I'm an accountant. I live alone." But Adam was still conscious, watching, not controlling. In this life, Hassan lived in a modern, cold, gray city. He had no friends, no visible family, only weekly meetings in a cafe with a woman named Reem, who smiled kindly at him and always disappeared before he could ask her anything real. In one scene, Hassan was sitting in the same cafe, staring into Reem's face. Something about her features seemed blurred, as if she were changing before his eyes. One moment looking cheerful, the next with a murderous stare. Suddenly, a sonic boom, a scream, glass flying. Hassan slumped to the table, blood poured from his chest. Then he saw him, a strange man in the corner holding a gun, running away. At that final moment, Reem didn't run, she didn't scream. She just looked at his body and whispered, "It wasn't you." Adam woke up vomiting on the floor. The body was refusing, just as the mind was. The experience wasn't just a visual display. He felt pain, suffocation, as if his body had taken the bullet. Dr. Sama didn't move, just stood beside him and asked, "Do you remember who you are now?" He shouted, "I'm not Hassan. I'm not that man." "Maybe not, but can you deny that your feelings were real? That doesn't make me him. And when are feelings implanted? And when are they real? If your mind believes the pain, does it matter whether it was yours or not?" She left him with the questions and walked away. That night, he returned to the mirrors. He stood in front of the bathroom glass and turned off the backlight to see his face in the darkness. For a few seconds, he saw many images behind him, the faces of other men, Jamal, Hassan, and maybe more. The glass was a blurred screen reflecting those who were in it, or who had been in it. He sat on the floor and whispered to himself, "How many people are in me?" Then he looked at the wall and said, "And how many of them will I have to die to get out of my head?" That night, the dream repeated itself. He was in a city he didn't know, running through chaos. But everyone around him bore his face. Children, women, the elderly, all bore his face. And they all cried out in unison, "You are not you." Over the following nights, Adam didn't close his eyes. He began to feel that the sessions weren't retrieving his memory, but injecting it. Every identity he'd experienced was complete, saturated, and couldn't simply be a recall. He decided to investigate for himself. At 3 a.m., he slipped out of his room. A narrow passageway behind an unused closet led him into a cold room filled with screens. Each one displayed scenes from a different person's life. In the corner, the code repeated, "Project Lantern, host number 19. He opened a master file, name Unit 19, Adam, number of identities injected, 4, Model 5, activating brain, state, unstable intervention, rejected, goal, convergence of consciousness models. He froze. He wasn't a patient, but an experimental unit. Everything he'd experienced had been an experience, and every memory he'd experienced had been intentionally overloaded. The fifth identity, coming, is the decisive factor. The next day, Dr. Sama entered without saying a word. Adam looked at her and said, "I'm ready for the final session." She replied with a smile, "And now you know why it's the last one." Adam didn't know if he was preparing to face his final past or himself. He sat in the chair, and the device was placed over his head for the final time. Dr. Sama said before the session began, "The final model is you." Darkness, then a dim light, In front of Adam sat another version of himself, but this time it wasn't just a memory. This version was conscious, silent, and looked at him confidently. She said, "I am the original, and you are just a test version." Adam was silent. His insides were upended. All memories, all identities were preparing to ignite. What you think of as your life is nothing but a composite of models, and I am the first to be planted here. I am the one who was forgotten, and you are the one who was made to be tested. The walls began to fade. Jamal, Hassan, and the other faces all returned like an echo. They were shouting, "I am the real me." Amid the screaming, Adam asked himself, "Do I need to be the original? Or is it enough for me to be the existing one?" He woke up. No clear memory, no specific past, just a new existence. Dr. Sama said, "The identities have merged. You are no longer a copy. You are no longer the original. You are now all of them." On a sunny morning, a nameless man walks down a quiet street. No identification papers, no confirmed past, no unfinished story, but inside there's calm. He's no longer searching for his origins. He's no longer afraid of forgetting. He's chosen to be who he is now, everything he was and everything he's become. And when he was asked one day, "Who are you?" he smiled and replied, "I'm the one who's left, when all the stories have ended."